Whoa. Holy shit. Just got done watching the season finale of Hawkeye episode 6. This has been a fantastic past week for Marvel. Specifically when we're talking about... Sorry, it's the middle of the night. But I just finished wrapping up, so thoughts are fresh, but... Excuse me. It's been a fantastic week for Marvel. Specifically, just jumping right back in. Obviously, talking about Wilson Fisk here. We're not going as far back as we go for when we talk about Andrew Garfield or Tobey Maguire coming back for Spider-Man. But it's been a good few years since Wilson Fisk, or since Vincent D'Onofrio has jumped into the character of Wilson Fisk. And he came right back, and he had an actual large role in this episode with a big, action set and everything. And spoiler alert, pretty sure they killed him, but they didn't actually show it, so they're leaving that open. And on Spider-Man, we know that Daredevil still exists in this universe, but I guess where that show ended, if they're going to bring that character back or not, it kind of makes sense that Wilson Fisk would be dead. But I'm jumping way to the end now talking about that. Let's start from the beginning, I guess. At the end of last week's episode, we get the video from Yelena, sends it to Kate Bishop, because she's been hired to kill Hawkeye. She confronts Kate Bishop about it, and basically she doesn't know who hired her or anything like that, but she says, I found the person who hired me. It's your mom. And here's a video of her talking to, thank you, I will. I'll do my best. Anyways, it's a video of her mom talking to Wilson Fig Guy or something to that effect. But it was a big secret for a long time who they were referring to. There was a lot of speculation online. A lot of people did guess Wilson Fisk, and turns out that was correct. This episode begins because the last week we just saw a still picture, really, of her talking. No, Spider-Man's not in the last episode, but Wilson Fisk is. But he was in. We saw a picture of him in the end of the last episode. This episode begins with a video of him talking, or I guess we don't see it as a video. We see it as the actual conversation. We later find out that Yelena videotaped this whole conversation that her mom and Kingpin are having. And basically, her mom is saying, it basically begins, they work together, they've got a good relationship, and she goes, she's basically like, it's time for me to get out of the business, because apparently they're working together because of a debt that her husband had to Wilson Fisk. And she said, we've more than paid you back, and, my husband's taken the fall, or my fiance's taken the fall for the Sloan thing, because they basically set him up to take the fall. And so I was right last week when I said, I think they've been building up this character, but it's really going to be nothing. He might just be more of kind of a patsy. I'm in Wyoming. Yes, we get TV out here, and Hawkeye specifically. But anyways, so she says, look, my husband's, or my fiance's taking the fall for you, and my daughter's, getting kind of close. She's getting involved. I need to be done. I'm out. Obviously, if you know anything about the mob, this isn't the kind of business you can just walk away from, specifically when we're talking about Kingpin, and we know what kind of mob he's established. And he says, basically, you can't just walk away. And she goes, well, I have insurance. I've been keeping records of everything we've done, basically threatening him, saying that if he comes after her or anything, she thinks she can just walk out of here, because she says, oh, I'm just gonna, yes, I have watched No Way Home, and I haven't done a video about that yet, but I'll probably do that tomorrow night. I've been really busy. But anyway, so she threatens him. He says, no, that's not how this is going to work. Cut to Hawkeye and Kate Bishop are watching this video. My guess is she doesn't know this is being recorded. Yelena's up in the ceiling somewhere. And Kate Bishop starts freaking out. She said, because her whole life is a lie now, basically. And her mom's done a bunch of evil shit, and we know now that she's worked for the mob. And we don't actually, it still doesn't go back to whether she killed the dad or not, but she killed the dad. Like that was pretty well established, I thought anyways. But they never go back to that. So she's just, a good mom as far as in the eyes of her daughter. Do I think The Amazing Spider-Man 3 will come anytime soon? I don't know. I didn't take it as they're using No Way Home as a jump-off point to reboot any of those other franchises. But they could. I think it kind of depends on how the relationship goes between Marvel and Sony moving forward with Morbius, and if they do a third Venom movie. And I think Craven was coming out. And I think, because it is established that there is separate universes now, and at the end of No Way Home, spoiler, everybody goes back to their own universe. So the Andrew Garfield, which I'm guessing you're referring to, the Amazing Spider-Man, he returns to his own established universe with everybody, and things are changed in that world now. So they could return to it after the fact, which, I mean, they could do, but Sony hasn't had good luck releasing Spider-Man movies as far as critics, and I think Amazing Spider-Man 2 was technically considered a flop, even though it made hundreds of millions of dollars. They spent so much on it, and it just didn't recoup it. So that's why the Marvel thing ended up happening anyways, was because Sony wasn't really good at it, and the whole company was kind of taken, so it happened at the right time, because all of their movies are still set in different universes. So they could use it to restart that. I think that'd be great because I loved Andrew Garfield. But back to Hawkeye. If you ask any more questions, I'll probably just get to them at the end because I am not very awake right now, and so I'll lose my thank you. I'll lose my train of thought as I keep going. But anyways, Kate Bishop is freaking out. She doesn't know that. Or she's just now finding out that her mom's a monster, and Hawkeye's like, look, that's true, I'm sorry, but shit's gotten real now. Kingpin is not going to take that well. Well, thank you. Kingpin's not going to take this well. Your mom is in big danger. We got to go. And tonight's the big Christmas party, which was, they led up to that in the episode 4, I think, was when they started talking about that. And so he's like, look, we got to go save your mom, basically, because an entire war is going to come down on her. And then you cut to Kingpin is now meeting with Maya. She comes in. She's been beaten up bad. And he talks to her. He's like, wow, I've never seen you beaten up like this. And, oh, you're disappointed? Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that, man. I thought it was fantastic. In fact, I'll elaborate more on this at the end. But I think this is, I think of the 3 post-Endgame, or of the 5, where are we at? We've got Far From Home, No Way Home, WandaVision, Loki, and this. I think this is either number 2 or number 3 for me. It's hard to beat No Way Home, but I do like Andrew's acting in the Amazing Spider-Man series. I wasn't as critical. The only problem that I had with it was I never bought him as a teenager, which is one of the main things you have to sell in order to really get into that movie. But if you could separate yourself from the fact that this guy doesn't look like he should be in high school, I thought his acting was incredible. In fact, I think he's an underrated actor, and I think it might be because of Spider-Man. He doesn't get the credit he deserves. There's this movie called 99 Homes that came out a few years ago, and it was a sleeper hit, but like it didn't get a whole lot of success for whatever reason, but he was fantastic in that. Social Network, obviously, he was great in. So, yeah, I love him as an actor. But back to Daredevil. Hawkeye. I said I'd get to the questions at the end. Then Maya asks for a couple days off. She said, I need to get my head back together. Kingpin says, okay, cool, whatever, go home. But he knows that they've lost her at this point, because we know that at the end of the last episode, Hawkeye revealed to her that it was her boss who tipped him off to kill her dad. And now it's revealed that that boss is Kingpin, and presumably he knows that Maya knows this. He sits down Kazi and goes, look, we've got an Avenger sniffing after us. Maya's gone. Like, we've got to... And the mom is now blackmailing him. We've got to nip all this shit in the butt. And so they say, okay, we got her. We're going to go get her at the Christmas party. And so then you cut back to Hawkeye and Kate Bishop are coming up with their plan. And he's like, look, first we need more arrows. She gets all excited, obviously. Oh, we're going to make more trick arrows. And... so you find out that he has all this Stark tech and Pym tech and stuff, and so they create more trick arrows. They put more stuff together. No, it's okay. I prefer doing this, actually having basically I'm doing this more conversationally, where I'm talking to people. Actually makes it pretty fun. So don't feel bad. I whatever. Okay, so they're working on making more trick arrows. And then, let's see, where do they go from there? They go to the Christmas party, and so they hire all the LARPers to kind of have them there as backup, and they get their new costumes from them and stuff, because that was part of the deal, was that if they would get the arrows back for them in episode 3 or 4, I can't remember. We'll get your arrows back if you give us supplies to make costumes. And then Kate Bishop was like, hey, make us costumes too. And so they did that, and so they're wearing those outfits in this episode, which is really cool. I'm trying to remember if anything happened in between the original setup. So I guess we'll just go to there, because I don't really remember what happens in between. But Hawkeye and Kate Bishop are at this party now. The LARPers are all working as the help, if you will, the butlers and everything like that. And thank you. And which I still find that funny that they have. It's a lot of first responders apparently in this version of New York City. Their main hobby is LARPing on the. I will not. Their hobby is. Role-playing, live-action role-playing. And so, but they're actually first responders, so they're not just, like, total nerds. So they're perfect to have there as backup. And at one point, they get into their costumes, too, but I'm skipping ahead a little bit. Basically, Hawkeye's at the party, and they're waiting for the attack to come, because they know that Kingpin and the tracksuits are now going to come try to kill Kate's mom. And they're already... Hawkeye's already on their radar. They know that he's looking at them. The reason why I love this show so much is because Marvel finally figured out how to do that witty sidekick girl character, which they failed so many times, whether we're talking about Kat Dennings or Awkwafina in Shang-Chi, where it kind of takes away from the movie or whatever you're watching when you've got this character kind of making dumb jokes. It doesn't always work. And she's more than a side character in this. But it's Hawkeye's show. He's obviously the main guy. But they made it work. And her banter with Yelena was great. And she's like, oh, how are you? Blah, blah, blah. And, oh, I'm going to go kill Barton now. So she won't give up on that. They have a fight. They end up running through the entire building, kind of chasing each other. And then she ends up getting away. She gets to a window because she knows so she knows what floor he's on because she watched the elevator go down. I think it was floor 12 or something. And so she gets into the, Kate Bishop gets into the elevator with her at the last second, and they have a little fight because she's trying to stop her from getting to that floor. And so she does. She ends up hitting all the buttons, like little kids do in the elevators and in big buildings like that in New York. There's like, 40 floors, so making the elevator stop constantly is going to slow somebody down if you're trying to chase them. So the elevator stops, they both get out. She ends up going to a window and using one of those grappling hook things to slide down, because they're right above Hawkeye at this point. And so Kate Bishop yells to him, so he misses her. She ends up running straight to the ground. She doesn't get him. Yelena doesn't get him. Then Kate Bishop straps herself onto that and goes all the way to the ground by herself. And that was pretty crazy because she wasn't really hooked onto it just right, or exactly right. She just kind of looped a thing around it. And she was super scared, but she made it all the way down to make sure that Yelena couldn't come back up, but also get to the ground to help, because now we have more tracksuits coming in. And there's literally like 100 of them, it seemed like. Really crazy scene. But now Hawkeye's stuck, basically. He's cornered up there. They know where he's at. The tracksuits get to that floor, and he's been laying these bombs, or these little tiny bombs, whatever he was able to make with what he had, because they had to make like 100 arrows off of, very little tech that he had laying around. So he blows, he knows that they're coming for him. Kazi's the first one to come get him. They get into a fight, but he ends up detonating the things anyways, which kind of brings the ceiling down on a bunch of the tracksuits that are like right there going after him. And then he doesn't quite take them all out, and so when he goes to escape out that window, I think they knocked away his grapple support. I can't remember exactly how it happened, but he ends up falling basically and landing in the giant Christmas tree, the Times Square Christmas tree, and he's basically stuck up there. And then it's funny because he looks and he sees an owl in the tree next to him. Then later on, when they're having this big battle down on the ice, they shoot a van that's coming at them full of tracksuits with one of the PIM arrows, and it shrinks the van and the tracksuit guys down. And the owl flies in and carries the van away. But before that, he says, "Look, I'm up in this tree. You need to help." And at this point, the LARPers have come down to the street. They got everybody out of the building, and now they're starting to fight on the street with the tracksuits as they come in. They've changed into their LARPing costumes, and Jack, I think his name's Jack, the sword guy, Lalo, joins the fight too, and they're just kind of taking people out. But the main fight happens on the ice when Kate takes the tree down. She shoots one of those acid arrows, I think, at the bottom of the tree. First, she cuts the ties on the side, the support ties that were holding it up. The tree falls down. Hawkeye lands on the ice. All the tracksuits kind of converge on him. And then an awesome battle ensues where they're shooting all kinds of arrows. First, he shoots like a magnet one that connects all the light poles around the ice rink, so all the guys' guns get sucked to that, but they're still running at him with bats and stuff. They use all kind of crazy arrows that come apart, and that was pretty cool. The arrow scenes in this show, episode 3 and this, have been some of the coolest Marvel we've ever gotten, because Hawkeye's always been basically a background character of the main cast, if that makes sense. He hasn't been a background character, but he's also not the main star, because it's split between 6 of them, or however many Avengers are in whatever movie. And so sometimes you just get to see him be a spy, basically. You don't see a lot of the cool gadgetry that he has. And so that was really cool to see in the show. They get all the tracksuits cleared out, then she goes to find her mom, and Yelena comes down on the ice to finally kill Hawkeye. And they get into a big fight, and she ends up beating the shit out of him, and she's getting ready to take the kill shot. And actually, I think before she beats him one last time, she says, how did my sister die? And he's like, "Look, I can tell you, but you're not going to believe me, because it is pretty crazy. Like, oh, we saw a floating red alien, and she fought me for it, and she won. She sacrificed herself." She doesn't believe him. She thinks he's lying. And with Yelena, we know because of the end of Black Widow that she was looking for a reason to kill Hawkeye. She already wanted Hawkeye dead. Now we find out that she was hired by Kate Bishop's mom to take him out because he was about to uncover all of her shit. So now it's kind of, she's gonna do it because it's her job. She always does her job, and she has a personal reason for doing it as well. it does, he tries explaining it to her. She doesn't buy it. She's getting ready to kill him, and he does their secret whistle. He knows that because he talked to, he was best friends with Natasha or whatever. And so she would tell him about her childhood. And so he was able to kind of calm her down. He says, she says, how do you know that whistle? Like, that was the secret thing that they had. And he's like, look, we were close. I tried to do it, but she was better than me. She beat me to it. And he ends up talking her out of it. Meanwhile, Kate Bishop is going to find her mom because the LARPers, they've been in contact. And she's like, hey, sorry there. That one didn't come through all the way. She's like, the LARPers say, your mom came out the side building, and all this shit's happening because of her mom. And she met up with her mom at one point before they went down to the street, and she said, look, you just stay safe. This is all because of you, kind of pissed off. How could you do this? Because on that tape at the beginning, I forgot to mention this, not only did they have Jack take the fall for it, and not only have they both made a lot of money, but it's revealed that she killed Armand, or she had Armand killed. And we thought that Jack did that, but at the end, he's kind of revealed to just be basically like a patsy, like I kind of thought, for a while there. I was saying that in episode, I thought it like back at the beginning. I said, what if they are setting up this character to look like something, ends up kind of being nothing? At the end, he doesn't get arrested or anything, and so he might not have even killed Armand. Apparently, the mom actually did, even though it just looked like... I'm mad. Okay, so then I'll get to that part. So, with she finally finds her mom. Her mom's getting in a car to get away. She gets in, and the driver's dead. Then, boom, Kingpin's right there. He didn't just send his guys down to do the fight. He goes down and he gets her himself, or tries to get him herself. And I'll circle back to this in a sec, but I'll answer your question first. Quickly, what happened was Kingpin gets into a fight with Kate Bishop. Then they end up, she blows him away but doesn't kill him. And then he ends up wandering away, and he meets up with Maya at the end. And she's come back and she's killed Kazi, and she's pissed. And then she has a gun on Kingpin, and they're family at this point, and he says that. They're basically like family. And he's trying to talk her out of it. Come on, we're family, this and that. Then it goes away, and you hear a gunshot, and it's just presumed that he's dead. I don't think I'm a fan of that, just because he was vaguely established just through like foreshadowing in the earlier episodes, being referred to as the big guy, but he wasn't like super established as a villain in the show. It's kind of crazy that you kill him off after only getting one episode with him. When I found out last week that he was coming back to the role, I was super excited. Kingpin was a skrull. Is that true? That'd be cool. But I'm not happy that they killed him off, just because I was excited to see him come back. But this, like the Spider-Man characters, spoiler alert, this is apparently just a one-off. They don't have any future plans for him, if they did indeed kill him. But they didn't actually show it, and we know what Marvel does, so for all we know, he got the gun from Maya and switched it around and killed her. And I would actually prefer that, because I wasn't a big fan of Maya's character. But yeah, Kingpin does die. Leading up to that, the mom's in the car going to get away. Kingpin gets her out. He's getting ready to kill her. Him and Kate get into a fight, and she uses all the arrows on him, and he's just beating the shit out of her, tossing her like a rag doll. But he's more focused on the mom. He's not trying to kill Kate. He's just like, look, get out of my way. You don't understand what's going on here, and this and that. And at one point, he beats her one last time, grabs her arrows, breaks them, throws them on the ground. He doesn't realize that these arrows are all kind of electrocuting and exploding and all kind of crazy shit. And so at the last he's going for the mom one last time. She uses the coin trick that Hawkeye taught her in episode 4 and ignites, like, blows up all the arrows. And that's how they end up going away. And they made it seem like, oh, he might have died there, because they show his body laying on the ground. That was the other thing about his death, was they teased his death once in this episode. So it's kind of funny to fake a death and then actually kill him off just a few minutes later. That was a little strange to me. So I don't really get what the point, unless they're building Maya's character out, which they're probably doing. They're establishing her a little bit more, and in order to do that, they had to have Kingpin die at her hands. Maybe that's why they did it. I'm not entirely sure, because he explodes, basically, and you see him laying there, and the story, it's more just, its purpose is letting you know that this character is alive and well in this universe. And they didn't do that with Kingpin. He actually played a role in the plot of the movie or show. So I don't know. I mean, you'd think that bringing Charlie Cox into Spider-Man, they wouldn't do that just as, you know, a cool cameo. They're letting you know this character is alive, and we're probably gonna set up another movie or another TV show or something. Which I have mixed feelings about, because so far, and I could be pleasantly surprised, but so far Disney hasn't done anything close to the Netflix Daredevil as far as the R rating. They haven't even come close to that with any of their other MCU movies. But I don't know. Hopefully they work something out and they can do it. But so if Wilson Fisk didn't die, what happened to him? That's, I guess, what I want to know. Are they going to say that he killed Maya? Is Maya's character now done? I don't know if we know if it's been announced she's coming back for anything. So if that's, so I guess if they didn't kill him off, there's like 3 things that could happen. 4 things. 4th thing, they killed him off. 3rd thing, he got the gun and killed Maya. 2nd thing, she shoots him and then leaves, and just like Kate Bishop assumed he was dead, he wasn't actually dead, and he wakes up. And the 4th thing would be like he's in a coma or something, and I'm sure they can find some comic book storyline to adapt that matches along with that. I'm not entirely sure. But anyways, her mom gets arrested, and that was a little irritating for me. Kingpin blows up, and she goes right out to her mom, and she knows that this dude's like indestructible based on the fight that they've been having, and she's just standing there talking to her mom, and the cops end up coming and arresting mom, but I thought that he was going to come running out of that fire and kill her both. In fact, throughout her mom's entire monologue right there, I thought that she was just going to get sniped in the head. And we do find out that mom is evil, but it never touches on the fact that mom probably killed dad. That hasn't been a big part of the show, but ever since episode 1, I've kind of thought that. And they've left that open, but she turned her mom in. Then, let's see, where are we at now? That's basically it. Hawkeye does get to come home for Christmas, and he brings Kate Bishop with him and the dog. And the last big reveal of the show is he says, oh, look, you would never guess what was found at the Avengers compound and ended up on a black market auction in New York. And he gives his wife the watch that they were looking for, or that the tracksuit guys were looking for it in the first episode. And then he's looking for it in the 3rd episode. He gets it. That's when the whole fight with Maya, and that's when Yelena comes in, is because they're looking for the watch. He gives it to her, and we didn't really know what was going on there. I mentioned it, the episode that came up when I was doing my spoiler talk about that one. I wasn't really sure if I liked where they were going with that, because it made it seem like Hawkeye's wife might not have just been some civilian the way that that's kind of been portrayed and the way I would have liked it to stay. That's not the case, because he says, oh, look what was found. And you look at it, and it's got a number on it. I can't remember the number. And then the SHIELD logo on the back. So basically, what this reveals is that she was a SHIELD agent, which I don't mind that as much. Maybe it's because I was in such a good mood about the episode, because the episode was awesome, because at first I thought I loved the idea that Hawkeye was settled down with somebody who was totally out of this world, out of the superhero spy world. It was just a random civilian that they had such a strong connection. But it does make more sense that she would have been a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent too, and she chose to get out of the business so that she could raise the family. It seems like that's what they're going. So I don't know what the purpose of setting that up is. I don't know if we're going to get a backstory on her. And I don't know if that's something they've covered in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. or some other show. I'm not entirely sure what they set up with that. But he gives her the watch back. She says, thank you. And they do talk in like a secret language or a foreign language, and they talk in codes in a couple of the other episodes where they're talking on the phone. And so we kind of know that it was already kind of established, even though it wasn't fully revealed, that, okay, she's more than just a housewife. She's now a housewife. She was not always that. And so, yeah, that's basically where they left it. Hawkeye goes, hey, come help me finish what you started. They're at his house. Kate's playing with his kids and the dog and everything, and they put the Ronin suit on the barbecue grill and light it on fire. Then the episode ends. They go back inside, and she's talking to him. What do you think about Lady Hawk? And asking him his opinion on all these names because she's trying to pick out her superhero name. And then he's like, nope, those all suck. Shoots down every name she throws up, and then he goes, I got another one, or I got a new idea for you. And then it goes to black, and it shows Hawkeye, because that's the end of the show right there. And so that basically establishes that she's taken over as Hawkeye. So if they do any other Avengers movies or anything like that, presumably her character is going to be in there as Hawkeye, which would be interesting to do. I think these shows are successful enough that they can actually pull that off. Usually it's kind of risky to go with the storyline in the movies that was introduced in a TV show, because, for instance, my brother who went with me to see Spider-Man, he didn't know who Charlie Cox was. Like, he was able to piece, that's Daredevil, just because he's blind, and he'd maybe recognized him. But he didn't, get as excited right away as everybody else did in the movie theater when it shows Charlie Cox, because there's so much content now that you have to be familiar with in order to get all the references. And so if Kate Bishop ends up being a main character, they're going to try to have to explain it in the movie without having to make it a requirement that you also watch this series, because then you can get content overload. It's kind of hard to get people coming back. That's what the beauty was about the Avengers movies, was you didn't necessarily have to have watched every single MCU movie to enjoy an Avengers movie, because they were long movies. They did enough to kind of fill you in on the backstory and everything like that. You kind of get it. There's some sequels that are pretty good at doing that. There's other ones that you're not going to understand it at all if you didn't see the first one. So it'll be interesting to see how they set her up, but it seems like she's Hawkeye from here on out. He's passing the torch to her. And then we did get a post-credit scene, but it was the musical that was shown in the beginning of the first episode. They did it felt like forever, but it was probably a 5-minute song. Didn't seem like it revealed anything. Maybe there was some Easter egg or something in there. I think the whole purpose of doing that was because they probably worked really hard and spent a lot of money on coming up with that musical number for the first episode, and they didn't want to just throw the whole thing out for a 5-minute gag at the beginning of the series. So they decided to end on that too, because it looked like it looked like something that would be in real life. Like they kind of did that awesomely, and they ended up ending on that. And like I said, I think that's just because they spent too much money on it and worked hard on it, so they didn't want to just leave it to the few minutes it had in the first episode. That's basically my thoughts. Where this ranks overall in the post-Endgame Marvel Universe, like I said, I don't think it beats No Way Home. Oh, it obviously doesn't beat No Way Home, but it might beat Far From Home. I'm not entirely sure. And I think it beats WandaVision in my mind. So Loki I haven't finished yet. Oh, Eternals too. I haven't seen Eternals, so that's not on my list when I talk about post. Shang-Chi. Okay, so post Endgame, we have Far From Home, Shang-Chi, Eternals, No Way Home. Loki, WandaVision, the Winter Soldier, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and now this. And I think it's better than Falcon and the Winter Soldier, better than Shang-Chi, better than Loki. I don't know if it's better than Far From Home, but I think it's number 3 or number 2, and that's high praise. And all the LARPers annoyed me when they introduced that at the beginning, but they kept them coming back, and they were kind of his support team even before they actually needed to fight. When they were just, Hawkeye needed a place to crash, he went to Grills, and it made me laugh because I remember there was a petition online, and it was probably fake outrage, probably wasn't like a real thing, but people were mad at the latest Halloween movie because of how Michael Myers killed the firefighters. They said it was disrespectful to the firefighters. And then I saw the first episode of this when they made firefighters LARPers, and I was like, okay, well, that's disrespectful to firefighters. But they pulled it out. They redeemed themselves because they actually ended up being awesome characters. And basically, these guys were doing the live-action role play, the LARP, because they wanted to be real heroes. They were first responders, but they want to be more than that. And so they get lost in this imaginary world. And yeah, they end up coming through. He gets to walk, basically. And you see him sitting there talking to the LARPers, and they're like, have you ever done LARP? And he's like, what is that? Some kind of leisure activity? And presumably is going to go hang out with them. And so it seems like, yeah, this dude really was a patsy the whole time. And I know sometimes people get mad when they do that. It wasn't quite Mandarin status because this guy was legit in on some shit, I think. He was CEO of that company. He did talk about the inheritance with Armand, at the auction. Like, he was into some shady shit. Plus, he was a really good sword fighter. So there might be more to that, but it kind of left him thinking. I mean, he was out of jail, and, he wasn't getting arrested. And that's the other thing that I thought was funny, and it might just be because of, it is, because of all the events that have happened and this big thing on the ice, and now they know the full story. But I find it funny that the cops get a hold of Kate Bishop in, like, episode 2, and that never comes back. Because I remember one of the episodes where a lot of shit all came together. I'm like, okay, you got tracksuits coming after him, Yelena coming after him, Maya coming after him, and we still got to worry about the cops. The cops are looking for Kate Bishop, and they never did follow that up. And presumably that all happened off screen. She explained it to him when she told them that they had to come arrest her mom because she killed Armand and framed her fiance for being, the CEO or the leader of a money laundering company for the Kingpin. And that's the other crazy thing. I liked where they were going with the tracksuits. These villains were awesome. They were the bumbling fools, but one of my favorite parts was when they first start fighting. I think it's before they get on the ice, but the one guy who Kate gave dating advice to, he's like, oh, thank you for that. That really helped. And they keep saying bro. Entrenched in watching it. I didn't want to sit there pausing it. I just wanted to watch it all the way through. And yeah, I super happy with it. I don't think I have much else to say on it, so probably going to wrap up. Hawkeye as a show. Hawkeye episode 6 by itself, fantastic. Putting a bow on the entire show, I loved it. It was absolutely awesome, and yeah, I'm glad to see it go the way it did. I wish they would. I will say about that end credit scene, I wish that they would have done something else. Maybe another, like, thrown something in there to let you know what's coming in the future. But like I said, they spent too much talent and money putting together that musical number that they couldn't just let it go. Yeah, I guess if the few people that are watching want to ask anything, we'll end it that way. Who is excited about Morbius? I'm excited about Morbius, but I'm confused because I assumed that was taking place in the same universe as Venom, right? Sony's Spider-Man universe. But Michael Keaton was in the trailer So it makes you think that this actually takes place in the Marvel cinematic universe. So it'll be interesting to see how they do that. Maybe it's the Sony universe's variant of Michael Keaton Vulture. I'm not entirely sure, but I I am extremely excited about it. I think Jared Leto got robbed as far as Joker. I think he's one of the best actors that has ever lived. And when he's really allowed to do, kind of control the character a little more, which obviously he doesn't have like uber amounts of control in these big franchise movies, but he does, he can kind of steer it a little bit with a big character like this. That's the actual star of the movie. It's not a ensemble movie like Suicide Squad. He can kind of steer the ship a little more, and so I am super excited to see him in that role and see that movie by itself. I'm just curious as to how that fits into the overall universe. I don't know if you have any thoughts about that. I was super surprised to see Michael Keaton show up in that trailer, because I was under the impression this was before Venom was established to be in a different universe. Now we know that he is in a different universe, but this still, I don't know. It's confusing to me. The one thing that does concern me about it is that it keeps getting bumped, and I get the COVID stuff. That does make sense, but to move it back as many times as they did, I'm pretty sure it's been bumped. Maybe I'm thinking of Venom. I'm not entirely sure, but if I think they should actually move it up at this point because people are so excited about Spider-Man, which just had the second biggest opening ever. I think if they try to, which they've already done from the studio that brought you this, I think I'm stoked about it basically. Jared Leto name drop Sinister Six, so it's got to be related to MCU somehow. Yeah, I don't know how they're gonna do it, and I'm not sure when that one comes out. I think that comes out before Doctor Strange, so I'm not sure how much playing with the universes they're gonna have to do in order to make that work. But I've been wanting the Sinister Six to come into the Marvel Universe for a long time. I used to think that the best one of the ways I thought one of the next villains, and obviously I love how they went from Loki to Ultron to Thanos. Going back now, I'm glad that wasn't interrupted. But at the time, I wanted the next villain after Far From Home to be the Sinister Six, the next big Avengers villain, to be the Sinister Six, because I thought, and somebody mentioned this online, that it would have been perfect if Tony was selling the tower, because that's the episode, or not the episode, that's the movie, the first Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man Homecoming, where he sells the tower, but it never shows you who he sold the tower to. So I thought Norman Osborn buying the tower as another, they would have, not gone the Willem Dafoe route, that they would have recast that role as well. I thought that would have been a great way to introduce Sinister Six. And we got so close to the Sinister Six in Amazing Spider-Man 2, and maybe it's good that movie didn't end up going all the way with it, just because the movie was so bad, at least according to a lot of people. Like I mentioned earlier, I don't hate that. I didn't hate that movie as much as everybody else, but it wasn't as smooth as it should have been for the amount of stuff that was going on. And so I guess I'm happy that they didn't, because I will say that even though I didn't hate it, it wasn't as elegant as it should have been, introducing that many villains and whatnot. And it's funny, everybody thought, we were all hoping it wasn't the case, and we all had faith in Marvel, but there was a little bit that was like, crap, are they going to do it again? Because they had, Spider-Man 3, Raimi Spider-Man, people said it was wrecked because of too many villains. Then Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, a lot of people said was wrecked because of too many villains. Then we start hearing all the stuff about No Way Home and seeing the trailers, and everybody's like, crap, are they going to do it again? But not only did they not ruin it with too many villains, but they actually, in a way, fixed the movies that they had wrecked in the past, and that was a good way to do it. But I'm not sure how they're gonna bring the Sinister Six in. Basically, I went down a rabbit hole, but that's where I'm at. I'm kind of annoyed because next MCU project is Doctor Strange 2 in May. Do we have any other TV shows coming out? That's what I want to know, because I think these are laying a lot of groundwork for what's to come. And also, I haven't seen Eternals yet, and Shang-Chi didn't. We got the post-credit scene where he's talking to Wong and Bruce Banner. But besides that, that didn't tie into how the whole universe is going to work. And like I said, I haven't seen Eternals. I think Doctor Strange, though, is a very important film as far as the second one is going to be an important film as far as establishing just how things work now in the Marvel universe. Which I think Loki and Eternals, which, like I said, I haven't seen, I think those two, properties have done an important part as well, because now we know the exact scope of the Marvel universe, and obviously with No Way Home, it just kind of busted everything open as far as they can do whatever they want. They could do a Star Wars crossover. Not that they would ever do that, and I hope they don't do that. But what they did there with blending the universes, and now, since all these other movies, we've had the Fox deal also, I think Doctor Strange 2 opens up the door to reintroduce a lot of characters. I think the new year, we're going to get Doctor Strange 2, and I can't remember what other movies are coming out, but I think as far as the content, it's not going to be as laid on heavy, but I think we're going to get a ton of announcements this year as far as Fantastic Four and, more Spider-Man movies. I mean, that was the other thing about No Way Home, was how much they set up. I mean, there's a lot of talks as, that's Tom Holland's last one, and I don't buy that for a sec, but even if it is, there's so many other different ways they could go without Spider-Man that they've established in this universe. We know Ned has magic, even though he's forgotten that at this point. But that's a route they can go down. We were talking about this right after we watched the movie, and obviously we're gonna now get a Guardians of the Galaxy type story with that, where he's trying to convince MJ that he does know her, a kind of 51st Dates kind of vibe. So they're obviously gonna go down that route, and we know that Venom, not Tom Hardy, but the symbiote. Does exist in the universe now, because before Tom Holland got put back into his universe, a little drop of Venom stayed behind in the Marvel universe. And so obviously they're going to go on with that. I mean, there's a lot of different ways they could go with Spider-Man, and I think after we get past Doctor Strange 2, we'll have a better idea as exactly where they're going with all these movies. So unless somebody else gets something in the next few minutes, I think I'm going to wrap it up. I'm at about 53 minutes here, so I'll try not to go more than an hour. No way Marvel takes 5 months break. They had to pump out one Disney Plus show before Doctor Strange. Are they going to pump out one more Disney Plus show? God, I wish I knew this, or I had a way to look it up real quick. Because I agree. I just don't know if anything's been announced. I would love to see another Disney Plus show. Like I said, these have been awesome. Nothing. Even if there's been some that I haven't quite gotten into, like Loki and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I don't think I necessarily loved. But WandaVision was awesome, and this was awesome. So I would love to see them, crank another one of these out if they can do it well. I'm just trying to remember what the slate looks like. I can't remember. But you know what? They also could take a 5-month break because of how big No Way Home is. I mean, that's going to be the talk for quite some time. Which, that's another reason why I think Matrix made a mistake. I think that movie will do okay, but I think it's just going to get buried. I don't even think it's going to be number one this week. But, we'll see. But I think No Way Home's going to stick around for quite some time. That's going to spawn a lot of conversation. And as soon as the buzz from the theaters start to wind down, then they're going to, because the theater release windows are really short nowadays. So as soon as the movie stops making money in the theaters, they're going to pull it, and it's going to go immediately to a streaming service or at least on demand, and they're going to be able to promote that and announce some more stuff to get that. That's another way that they promote what they currently have out, is by announcing other stuff. And so I could see them doing that. But yeah, I don't think that they would take a 5-month break, but I don't know what else is coming out. So I guess we'll see. I mean, I think Morbius comes out before that, right? But that was the whole conversation. I don't know if that's part of the world or not. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where this all goes. And with that, another note on Morbius. If that does take place in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, then that means we get to see Michael Mando, I don't know, the other Better Call Saul guy as Scorpion, like, right? I would think so, because obviously they're bringing Disney Plus, I just read that. Obviously they're bringing Michael Keaton back as the Vulture, and they were in prison together, so if Michael Keaton got out, then obviously Michael Mando got out too, at least you'd think, and then maybe we'll get to see him become the Scorpion. And I know in the traditional storylines there's specific characters that make up the Sinister Six, but obviously they don't have to follow that to a T. We just have to have 6 characters, basically, and they'll slap the label on it. So it'll be interesting which ones end up being the Sinister Six, but it definitely looks like that's the way they're going from here on out. So I think that's about it. I'll wait and see if any other comments come in. But I'm going to wrap it up, getting close to an hour here. Going to go to head off to bed. And yeah, I'll say it one more time. This was absolutely awesome. I'm super happy. I was worried when they announced all this Disney Plus shows, just because I haven't been a big fan of Marvel TV. Even the Netflix shows were kind of hit and miss. Daredevil was awesome, Punisher. I liked some episodes of Iron Fist and Jessica Jones, all those. But I haven't, I didn't love them. And then Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was just too much. I couldn't get into that. And, God, there was a couple other, ABC shows or whatever. It was just too much. And I wasn't a big fan of the Marvel TV. But they have been killing it with this Disney Plus shit, which I did expect because of how awesome Mandalorian was. But last thing, at the end of No Way Home, how little symbiote left in the MCU, but whole Venom went back to the Sony universe. Probably, I'm guessing that they're going to say that the Venom symbiote has, whatever matter it's made up of can, coexist in multiple universes, if that makes sense. Because we know that that's a very transmissible, like, Venom didn't die in order to create Carnage. Like, he left some Venom. That's how, like, he some of that stuff ended up in Woody Harrelson. I can't remember the character's name, but that's how he ended up, for a full symbiote to take form off of just a little bit doesn't take much. And so maybe it could be left behind. And also, Venom, the character, I don't know how they're going to do the whole going back into the other universe, as far as, like, I think all that damage will still have been done, from all the villains in that movie. It'll just be nobody remembers that it was Peter Parker that was involved in that. They just think that it was Spider-Man. I'm not entirely sure. I don't know how they made it so the symbiote will come. But that's another thing that will probably be explained in Doctor Strange. We'll learn a little bit more about how this multiple universe things work, because I'm still a little confused on how everybody forgetting him made that whole thing close up. That doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. So the fact that a little drop of Venom stays behind, I'm on board with that. I'm a little bummed, though, because I think that means that when we see Venom, it's not going to be Tom Hardy. And I love Tom Hardy in that role, so I don't know. We got to watch Doctor Strange and any other Marvel content that comes out. That's the thing they're doing is now they're making you have to watch every piece in order to make it all make sense. But it's okay because so far every piece has been hitting it out of the park. And, I'm going to end on that. We're at just about an hour. So, that was perfect timing. Thanks, everybody, for joining me. Thanks, everybody, for commenting. I'll probably be back tonight, midnight movie talk at 11 p.m. Mountain Time, talking about all the, if we have any movie news announcements over the next 24 or 12 hours, I guess. We'll talk about it tonight, so come back and chat with me about that. Until then, thanks for watching, and Hawkeye was awesome.